Rohit has these amazing blue shoes that everyone must see.
Must see and must buy maybe. Yeah. They're from Nike.
Are you already chasing sponsorships and whatnot?
Nike, if you're listening.
One day Nike will be chasing you for sponsorships.
So these are running shoes and I like them so much that I wear them even when I'm not running, basically.
Rohit is always running.
From one...
That could be Nike's newest thing.
Rohit is always running. Yeah.
Always be running.
Always be running, yeah.
I don't think that's a good slogan.
Yeah, see, we are like, I mean, we are so amazing, like... Yeah.
What can we say?
Welcome to yet another episode of Talking to the Moon. And I have with me someone who was our guest in the last season as well.
The most chaotic guest.
The most chaotic guest who made me wake up at like 5 a.m.
I did not make you wake up at 5 a.m. You made me wake up at 5 a.m.
That's a debate for another day.
Right, okay.
But last season, we released your episode on April 10th. And today is April 2nd. So it's exactly 1 year since your episode released. In that 1 year, a lot of things have changed. You have moved from Atlanta to the San Francisco Bay Area, and so have I. So is it safe to say that I have been following you across the country?
I think that's what's been happening.
Yeah.
I'm not mad about that, by the way.
Yeah, like what are the odds that we both ended up in the SF Bay Area? But 1 year ago, you were in Atlanta, and now you're here. What prompted this move from Atlanta to here?
I think sometimes you just have to take risks in life. And my hair is on the mic. But I think I had reached a point where I think I was plateauing in where I was before. And I had met everyone that I wanted to meet back there. And I think it was time for a change.
Right.
And I think with every kind of change, every time you move comes growth. And I was looking for growth.
Right.
And so Silicon Valley seemed to be the place to go at the time. It's come with its ups and downs, but so glad I moved.
Nice. And I think the first time you moved, you went to San Francisco.
Yes, I did.
And from what we've seen on LinkedIn, at least, there seem to have been a lot of...
Stop it, bro. You don't have to start the episode by releasing. Oh my God.
But this is important. We need to know the non-glam life behind the startup life. So, yeah, could you enlighten us maybe in a very brief manner why you were moving across 100 cities in the Bay Area?
So I moved to SF before this. The first time I moved to SF. And then after that, ended up realizing that SF, there were a ton of homeless people.
Yeah.
And as a woman, you don't really feel safe with homeless people. And I think a lot of women founders just don't talk about this.
Right.
And I think SF was this kind of lifestyle that I really didn't enjoy. I think it didn't allow for any kind of structured work. I think people keep getting lost in useless coffee chats.
Yeah.
It's like useless networking.
Right.
And so I was like, this isn't really helping me build my business. So, and there's homeless people. So let's move to Oakland, which was
the worst decision, I think.
The worst decision of my life. Because I think I moved to Oakland. There were more homeless people there. I was being followed around by them. And then the Airbnb that I had booked in Oakland for about a month had bed bugs. So that happened. So I called up one of my friends late at night and I said, please come get me. And she lives in Mountain View.
Right.
And she didn't have a place where I could crash. So we put a mattress on the floor and I crashed on a mattress on the floor in her house. Wow. And then after that, found another Airbnb, moved to San Jose.
Okay. So San Jose seems to have been a more permanent place. But
for now.
But I'm very glad because if you see this area, this is called Communications Hill. And it's a beautiful area. I'll put some clips of the surrounding scenery. It's very picturesque. So I'll put that in the video as well. But congrats on having some permanence finally. So one of the reasons you said you moved here was to see some growth. And the SF Bay Area is a mecca of tech entrepreneurship. It's a great place for founders to stay, network, and build their careers. How has that experience been navigating this world at the heart of where everything happens?
I think a lot of people overestimate what Silicon Valley can do for you. And I did not move to Silicon Valley thinking it was the solution to all my problems in business.
Right.
I think the world has changed quite a bit since Silicon Valley first started. There's a lot that you can do outside the valley. I will say there is a lot of social mobility, upward social mobility for people like me, where we can meet new people. The day I landed in Silicon Valley, a month after that, I had the chance to meet TikTok CEO,
Wow.
LinkedIn CEO,
Yeah.
LinkedIn's past CEO.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of opportunities like that where you can get access to the people and that have built these fantastic companies.
Right.
But at the same time, it's also really easy to get distracted and use less coffee chats, like I said.
Yeah.
So it really is up to you what you make out of wherever you go.
Yeah.
I will say Silicon Valley is also really expensive to live in.
That is true. Yes.
So you know this.
It's very expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. So everything you do in life should be a calculated risk.
Yeah.
I did not take. I did take a calculated risk before I moved here. I did my Excel spreadsheet analysis of moving and what it would be. But I think at the same time, I could not have predicted having bed bugs in my Airbnb and all those things. So I think moving is always tough. But you don't have to be in Silicon Valley these days to build fantastic new companies.
Right. I think places like Miami, Austin, even Atlanta for that matter, like they have shown some potential of having some scene of good tech entrepreneurship. Or no?
I think I was talking more about outside the US, Rohit.
Oh, I see. Yes, which reminds me, you had made a trip to India.
Yes.
How was that trip?
Amazing.
Yeah.
And not so amazing also.
I see. What made it amazing?
I think I had not been back for so long.
Right.
It had been a long, long time. I think it's always weird for me going back to India because I don't go back regularly. What was amazing? I think it was amazing seeing my co-founder.
Right.
It was amazing hanging out with his family.
Yeah.
They're a beautiful family.
Right.
So that was amazing.
Right.
You know how Indian families are.
Yeah, of course. Family is the central theme of Indian society, and I love that absolutely.
So that was good. I think the negative parts, I think my work moved slowly when I was in India. I live in Chandigarh. Chandigarh had internet problems.
Really?
It did.
Okay.
It's strange that it still does. So I think India has a long way to go.
Right.
But it's come a long way too.
Yeah.
And people can certainly build companies in India.
I see. And you also did a tour of a few cities, starting from Chandigarh and ending at, I think, Ahmedabad.
I don't even remember. It was like it's all a blur. I move around so much.
Was it a media sort of campaign?
It was not a campaign. I think it was just like me moving around to different cities and talking to lots of people who've used FullCircle,
right?
Who've been with FullCircle for a while,
right?
And then yes, talking to some journalists.
I see.
But I did go to Gujarat. I think I went to Mumbai.
Okay.
And then in Chandigarh, Delhi, obviously, and a couple of other places.
I see. Okay.
But it's a blur. It always is a blur.
Yeah, I agree. India trips are always a blur. And even I felt sometimes like out of control there when I had been there. Of course, I wasn't running a startup, but I was like still working and I had some structure to that. But I still felt like, okay, I need control of my life back. And I felt that when I came back here. So I guess it has its pros and cons.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the past 1 year, which we talked about, not only has your physical location changed, but also the direction.
the subtle poking is just not stopped. But okay.
Yeah, not only has your physical location changed, but also the direction FullCircle is moving in. When we last spoke, FullCircle was a mental health startup, and now you have pivoted it to a loneliness / community building startup. What prompted that change?
It still is a mental health startup.
Right. Loneliness can't be taken away from mental health, I guess.
That's the point, right? And I think community cannot be taken away from both those things.
True.
So I think it's less about us changing directions and more so having learned new things over the past year and incorporating them into the vision of FullCircle. So it's not a dramatic pivot. It's just we've learned new things by talking to different users and different interviews. People have said, we want FullCircle to be this, we don't want FullCircle to do this. And of course, 50 different people have 50,000 different things to say.
Right.
So we just picked, and this is where we are now.
Yeah. And there's a plane flying. So the airport is right here. I don't know if you can see, but there's a plane flying Oh, that's a light. Sorry, but there was a plane flying there.
But at some point, let me just say,
Yeah.
Rohit has come a long way since I also last saw him. Last time, I think we shot in my apartment.
Yeah.
Or like on the top floor of my apartment.
Top floor of your
something of that
apartment.
sort. And now we are here.
Yeah.
But he's kept at it, and someday he's going to have this massive team, and we will no longer have to be redoing questions because
Disturbed
of
by
planes.
planes. So you said right now that loneliness can't be dissociated from mental health. But loneliness is a very universal phenomenon.
Yes.
And people from different intersections of the society experience it differently. For example, a trans person in a school as a teenager would experience loneliness in a very different way than maybe a young female founder in the Bay Area, which might be dominated by male founders.
Yes.
So, how has FullCircle or you taken cognizance of this fact and incorporated that into building your product?
Yeah, we don't try and do everything all at the same time.
Okay.
We start from one vertical
Right.
and then go from there. So the vertical that we are tackling right now is Indian immigrants in the US.
Okay.
Which is very specific.
Right.
Right. And so we start with being specific. You know how Amazon started with first selling books online and only then moved to different niches?
Right.
I think for us, we are razor focused on serving Indian immigrants because those are problems you and I understand.
Exactly.
And I understand really.
Exactly.
Well.
Yeah.
And I think when you first start building a product, you don't have a lot of data. When you have less than a certain number of users, it's very hard to just build a product if you don't already know what your users and what your customer base is experiencing themselves.
Right.
So I think I'm starting from a perspective and specific section of people that I really understand because I've been an Indian immigrant myself in the US.
True.
So we start there and then we go from there. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. And that's actually a great choice. I think that would benefit a lot of people tremendously, especially the ones who come here for like bachelors.
Yeah.
Because you did.
Yeah.
And there's no family here. And bachelors is when you're still too young, right? You're not exactly mature. So yeah, good choice on that. And I'm excited to see how this goes further.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Ananya, in the last few months, AI has seen a huge comeback, especially the AI driven by natural language processing, especially with large language models such as ChatGPT. Everywhere you go in professional circles in the tech industry, people are speaking about AI. They want to incorporate it in all their products. People are like, this is a new thing. It's going to change the industry and perhaps the world forever. Loneliness and AI can be a very good combination. And that reminds me of the film Her, which starred Joaquin Phoenix in 2013. This film had loneliness as its central theme, and the lead character, falls in love with an AI assistant. How do you or FullCircle view the role AI can play in building your product?
I have something very specific to say because I think this is something that's come out in our latest iteration.
Right.
So I think a lot of people that we end up seeing FullCircle being used by are Indian immigrants, specifically Indian immigrant engineers. And so the very interesting thing is, none of the people we have ever come across at FullCircle want to be talking to a robot about their feelings. It is just not something that makes us feel human.
Yeah.
At the same time, even though support systems and loneliness can be solved by this human interaction, there are some things that do and can be solved with ChatGPT.
Right.
For example, most Indian immigrants who are engineers end up wanting action items as tips to solve their mental health and loneliness. Extremely specifically, they're like, tell us how to talk about, for example, I won't use names, I won't use identifiers, but there was this one person who was a FullCircle user who said, I want to break up with my boyfriend. And he thinks we've been dating for a year. In my head, we have not been dating for a year.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to break the news to him. So I want you guys to tell us how I'm supposed to break up with my boyfriend.
Wow.
And we just
yeah, it's not a relationship advice startup, right?
and she very specifically said, I want bullet points.
Right. I think it's a very engineer specific thing. I think that's what happens a lot in therapy as well, because therapists a lot of times say a lot of abstract and subjective things, and people are like, okay, but what do I do? Like, okay, like now I know things, but what do I implement?
Yes.
But sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So I think when you have engineers who, number one, don't have the time to sit around all day
Right.
in abstract and subjective sessions, have tried therapy and it has maybe not worked for them at the stage of life that they are at right now, or they want a supplemental source on top of therapy and on top of FullCircle. I'm not saying FullCircle and therapy are the same thing.
Yeah.
When you do want supplemental things like this and you want action items and you want tips structured as bullet points, that is where there can be some use of AI. And I'm still skeptical of saying you should use AI for those things, because at the end of the day, it is still tied to emotional
Right.
things. So I use ChatGPT.
Right.
I would be lying if we said we didn't even use Notion AI in our work at FullCircle.
Yeah.
But have we incorporated it as part of the FullCircle product so far? No. Are we thinking about it? No. We might do it in the future, depending on what we see are genuine needs that people have. Because I think for a lot of people who struggle with their financial health, therapy on top of that, or paying for something else on top of that, is quite a burden. So I think as long as we are guided by what can provide most value to FullCirclers and to other people, I think we will be guided by that, as opposed to saying, here's the latest trend and fad that's in the market.
Yeah.
Let's just push it into the product.
Like everyone else blindly.
And I don't trust it. I think it's like, FullCircle was built on a lot of love and care.
Yeah.
And so everything that we have done so far at FullCircle has been with 50 different trust and safety measures. We want to be extremely deliberate about how we do things. We capped the Discord also, remember?
Yeah.
Because we were like, we cannot serve these many people and serve them well. So even though we could have made a ton, we were like, no.
Yeah.
And I think like that's important. I think sometimes you do have to place profit below people.
Yeah.
It's just not sustainable to do the latest things that are on the market because your investors tell you to.
Yeah.
Or because
Yeah.
or because it's a fad in the market. It's just not. No.
I see. So
What are your next questions, Bestie?
you also okay. And
Let me ask you a question. No, hang on now. Enough questions for me.
Okay.
So Rohit started. Okay, no, hang on. So Rohit, you started these podcast series about a year ago.
Yeah.
What have you learned in the last year about podcasting?
About podcasting, or
that I have not read on the internet anywhere else, that I cannot find in a book anywhere else. Give me the 3 things that you have learned that I cannot find anywhere else.
I think genuine curiosity really helps one make good questions, because a lot of people, especially you, have come back and told me that, okay, these were good questions. I haven't been asked such questions in many interviews I've given. And that got me thinking, okay, why are my questions good? Because those questions are questions I genuinely have.
Okay.
It's not like I have used ChatGPT to generate questions. I'm genuinely very curious about people, which can sometimes be very funny also. But I think this curiosity is what makes me question everything that people do, which is what makes these good questions. That's one thing for sure.
Okay.
Second thing is that I was pretty surprised how okay I was with the dismal views I was getting on my videos. At the beginning, they are all pretty good, but then they taper down. I thought initially that I would be a bit disappointed with it, and I was, but that surprisingly did not stop me from making more videos.
Look at you.
And I think that's because
I'm so proud of this.
Thank you.
Go on.
But that's because I knew that this is a sort of a niche video podcast. These are long conversations. If I wanted to have more views, I could have made tiny shorts, TikTok-like shorts. But then you can't have substantial or meaningful conversations in like 2 minutes, right? For example, the AI thing we discussed right now, like you said something that caught my attention, then I asked you more questions about it. That's how a conversation flows.
Yes.
So I was very surprised, the second thing, that I wasn't stopped by the less views that I was getting.
Okay.
And the third thing is that I have realized that people, like, stuff finds its audience. Like, people who want to watch things will watch it. There have been some really dedicated people who watch all my episodes, and for various reasons. Like one reason
Super
is
fans.
super fans, or like family loves you, right? So they will watch everything,
Yes.
regardless of how shit it is.
It starts like that. You force your family to buy your product.
Yeah. And then even if it's 1 hour, like there are people who want to watch this, so they will watch this. So I think that and being consistent has really kept me going. So I think these are the three things.
I love all 3 points.
Yeah.
And I think a year from now, when you look back at this, it'll be so interesting because you've come so far. You moved all the way to Silicon Valley.
Yes.
You've kept going on. So I think if you exceed 3 episodes, you already are in the top 1%, because most people give up after 3 episodes.
I see. And
So-
this is the 10th episode. Yeah.
Look at, so he's already in the top 1%.
Yeah.
If he kept going. So I think it'd be really interesting to see where you are a year from now.
Yeah.
And 5 years from now. And you should let your guests ask you questions instead of asking all the questions.
Yeah, actually, that is maybe that can be like a fixture now, that every
I think
episode
so.
guests ask me 3 questions or something like that.
Let me ask you another question
Yeah,
on
sure.
camera.
Yeah.
Who are you dating?
So Ananya knows the answers. Actually, she just wants to
Yes,
get
I just
them
want to
out.
get them out so that everyone knows.
But speaking of investors, you had mentioned in one of your LinkedIn posts that.
Yes, go on.
Okay. Speaking of investors, you mentioned in one of your LinkedIn posts that you are sometimes absolutely terrified before the investor update. In the same post, you said that you still think it is way better to be transparent and honest than lying and ending up in jail.
I think that's a better option, isn't it, Rohit?
It makes a lot of sense. True.
Yes.
I'm very curious how investor-founder relationships work. What patterns have you seen as you have navigated this world, and what are your do's and don'ts in this area?
I definitely say do not go to jail.
Number one.
Number one.
Yeah.
I mean, you've heard of Sam Bankman. Yeah. And of course, there's Elizabeth from Theranos.
Yeah. And everyone who appeared on Forbes cover, I think. So don't appear on Forbes cover.
Yes, I think we should skip appearing on that. But I've been incredibly lucky with my investors.
Right.
All of them are incredibly supportive. And the tension I have with sending the monthly investor update, which is how much revenue you have, how much you've done this month, etc., is because I don't want to disappoint them, because they have been so incredibly supportive. And I think for FullCircle's do's and don'ts, I think if I were to talk about what you should do in investor relationships with founders and what you shouldn't do, definitely don't lie. And I think I've given equations about how small lies add up, and you can link the post here.
Yeah.
You can look at the equations. Small lies add up. And I think a lot of founders think they can inflate metrics and cover up another month. And if you look back at that post, I've done the exact math on how that's really bad.
Yeah. And when she says add up, she actually means compounds.
Yes.
Because things start compounding, right? And so do the lies.
Yes, compound interest is fantastic until it isn't.
Until it's not, right.
So that's one thing. I think the other thing I will say with respect to investors is, do not think people are just going to invest in your company with a cold pitch. Investors relationships take time to build. Trust takes time to build. And I think if you take on someone on your cap table that, you don't know quite well, even if they give you the money, you don't know how to conduct that relationship with them. And I think especially for young founders who are probably female founders, it is incredibly important to know who you are getting in business with.
Right.
Because you don't know what kind of person they are. And I think instead of rushing into a fundraise or rushing to raise a bunch of hundreds of millions of dollars, I think it is really important to slow down and think about things and get to know people, because it's not just a one-way street.
True.
They are vetting you as much as you are vetting them. Just like any other interview for any company, you need to know the company and the culture too. True. Otherwise, you end up really miserable. And my God, I am so grateful I have not ended up miserable.
Yeah.
So I think the reason I'm scared to send out the monthly investor update is because I don't want to let them down, because they are so incredibly supportive.
Right. Yeah.
But did I answer your question?
You did. And you spoke about maintaining and building relationships. I'm sure in the past, couple of years especially, you must have networked, built relationships, or known really successful people, perhaps some of them in their top 1 or top 0.1% of their field.
Yes.
What are some interesting patterns you've observed about them, or what have you learned from them that we all should perhaps know?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I'd done a LinkedIn post about this too.
Yeah.
I don't like the word networking.
Right.
I've never networked with people.
Right.
I think a lot of people get this whole networking thing wrong. I think networking, especially when you are not at the same level as the person you are trying to have a conversation with, it becomes a one-way street.
Yeah.
And nothing in life that is a one-way street ever works.
Right.
I think instead of thinking about networking, think about how you can create value for the other person.
Right.
And have a conversation with them. If you don't think you can add any value to them, come with a sense of humor. Because if you make them laugh, that is also adding value to their life. So at the end of the day, I would say using the word networking is really off. I don't think I've ever taken a networking call. That it just inherently is cringy.
Yeah, the term itself is a bit
cringy.
weird, right?
It's really weird.
Yeah.
It feels like it's very transactional.
Transactional, yeah.
So provide value to people and then let it go.
Yeah.
Like you and I, you know, when you do something for me, it's not like I have to do something for you. When I do something for you, it's like I don't care. I just want him to do well, because when people around you do well, you all collectively do well, you all learn, and then you tell each other what you learn.
Right.
And then you grow so much more exponentially as opposed to going linearly. People who network go linear. People who just help each other and forget about it and don't expect things in return go exponential.
I think that's the line of this episode. I think.
Yes.
I'm gonna
go exponential, not linear.
Yeah. And I read something really interesting once, and they said that networking is about giving, which is what you also said.
Yes.
You were like, it's about creating value for people.
Yes.
And sort of just forgetting about it later.
Yes.
And what is one current biggest fear that you have about how you are living your life currently?
Oh,
spooky. The grey clouds are really adding emotional, dramatic effect for this question.
What is my biggest fear about how I'm living my life
currently? Yeah.
I'm going to ask him the same question right now. What is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear
right
is
now?
That I might be taking decisions which I'll regret later, because that has happened before.
Okay.
And of course, at that point, you only make decisions which seem sane at that point, and with the knowledge, awareness, and understanding that you have. But in hindsight, of course, when you sit back and look at things rationally, you're like, oh man, like I could have done that differently. So it's a very weird thing to think about, because it's all in hindsight. So I think that's one of my biggest fears right now, that I might be making decisions which I might not like later.
Give me an example of one decision you made.
That's okay. Let me think which ones I should filter out and tell you.
I thought this was your video podcast. The audience should know its host completely.
Yeah.
No secrets with your audience, Rohit.
I think some career decisions that I've taken, sometimes I'm like, I could have thought a bit ahead into the future. I was a bit happy-go-lucky at that point, and I took some decisions which sometimes I might have taken out of emotional reliability. I think those decisions are the ones I sort of think could have been taken differently. Yeah.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
We should have someone interview him. Yeah. Maybe I can interview you for season 3.
Yeah, and
I think that would be a good episode.
Even Ayushi, the girl you're speaking to, as in like my friend who's in talks with her about some professional stuff.
Yeah.
She also said the same thing. So maybe y'all can just do a joint.
Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah.
My greatest fear is that my life moves so quickly that sometimes I don't have the time to sit down and really reflect. Because I moved 5 cities in the past 5 months. I'm traveling constantly this year. And I take half a day off on Saturday.
Right.
So even when I'm taking half a day off on Saturday, it's like I have to do, basic life stuff
Yeah,
on
like
Saturday.
chores. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like there is any time to sit down and really think about life. And so I think it's going really fast. And my
Right.
life has gone really fast for the
Yeah.
past many years now.
Yeah.
And so I think that is my biggest fear, that I am moving so quickly and changing so much. It's impossible to keep up.
So when you say you don't really have time to sit back and reflect, how do you, because you need to, when you sit back and contemplate about your decisions
Yes.
or anything that you've been doing, that's what gives you more insight into what could you be doing differently, or what is going right, what's going wrong. So how does that fit into this?
I think with my professional life, I've been really reflective because I take out
Okay.
time and schedule time
Okay,
to
got
be
it.
reflective. But with my personal life, maybe not so much. And I think I've come to that realization where I'm just running in my professional life. And there is a need to sit down and think about the decisions you're making every day in your personal life too.
Right.
Because they do, even for like really career focused reasons, your personal life affects your professional life.
Yeah, true.
You cannot separate the two.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think I have a greater awareness of that.
Right.
So that is something I'm working on. But that is a big fear, is that I'm moving so quickly that even beyond just the decisions I'm making right now, my life is moving a little too fast to like keep up, even for me.
For you.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Which brings us to the end of this episode.
Does it?
I think we've talked about some really interesting things.
Yes.
And
we have cute dogs.
And we have cute dogs here. I wish we could bring a dog next time to one of our episodes.
He promised me samosas last time. He said, when we do season 2, I will get you samosas. Where are the damn samosas?
The samosas are in my car.
Where is the damn car?
The car is imaginary.
I am not doing season 3.
No, but I think you are going to be that guest which shows up in every season, like
You better show up in every season, okay? You've woken me up at 5 a.m. We've sit outside on a park bench to shoot this damn thing. I had better be on season, and you had better bring me samosas on season.
Okay, samosas are due for season.
God, yeah.
But looking forward to season 3, and
I'm looking forward to it.
Hopefully that will also be next year.
I'm looking more forward. I'm one second.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to the samosas more than interviews with him. But,
yeah, and I hope by next year your life has gone fast enough, but you've also gotten time to reflect. And the way we spoke about the changes that happened in the past 1 year, I hope many more good changes happen to you and to me as well.
Yes.
And yeah, and we come here and talk again. Maybe
with samosas.
With samosas. Cool.
Anyway, it was lovely seeing you guys again. I don't know who your audience is.
So your
audience is pretty cool.
My audience actually loves you a lot.
Oh, they do?
Yours.
I love you too.
Your episode is one of the ones which people speak a lot about.
Yay!
They like listening to you. They like watching you.
He's just like doing this.
Muska? Right? No, this is not Muska. I'll show you proof. No, but genuinely, I think people like watching you, and that's why you should come back. And also because you're my friend.
And also because I'm getting bribed with samosas.
Samosas, yeah, my God.
Also, people, if you do anything, please compliment my shoes this time. Okay, I've been trying to show you my shoes this entire episode.
Mine as well. It's like you're a villain in black and white, and I'm like blue and white today.
Yes, and your shoes are the biggest thing.
The biggest
thing.
Yeah. Okay, all right, guys. That's it, and see you very soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.